Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new Let's Play of Road Waves 3 as German Empire, or more precise, as the Kaiserliche Marine, as we are going to play the navy of the German Empire. As I mentioned in episode 0, which was a sort of an introduction to the game, more than to our Let's Play, we are going to start every episode by going through a sort of a presentation. You can call it an almanac, you can call it a newsletter, whatever you choose, it's fine, which will inform us about the current situation. I'm doing this mostly because I want to make it a little bit easier for you to orient yourself in the walls of text and the data that the game is throwing at you in not so readable way. Now, the first update and first episode is going to be much longer because we have to go through literally everything to establish the starting situation. In the upcoming episodes, it's going to be much shorter because we are going to look only on the changes and interesting stuff like new ships, and update to the diplomatic situation, changes to the budget and stuff like that. After every update, we are going to play an entire year of the game, which is 12 turns, and we're gonna then have another episode with another update, followed by the next year. So I hope this format will be, a nice way how to get you more involved and more understanding about what is going on. And before we jump into it, last note, I wanted to say, if there is anything missing that you would like to be updated on in these sort of newsletters or almanacs, or if there is any question that comes to your mind, feel free to ask them in the comments. There are no dumb questions, and more likely I missed something, and I would be very happy for you to point it out so that I'm not going to regret that later on when I find out for myself. So anyway, let's start. So the first part is always going to be dealing with the diplomatic situation of the German Empire, as that is the very most important thing for us. The relations in the game can go from 0, which is the best, lowest tensions basically, to very high. I've seen, I think, even 14 or 15, but anything above 12 means pretty much almost always war. When you look at us, you will find us in the bottom row. We have pretty good relations with pretty much everyone. Level 3 tensions is pretty decent. We have only 2 nations where we have heightened tensions. We have increased tensions with the United States, and we have high tensions with England. It's kind of interesting to look at the other states though as well. United States have sort of increased tensions with pretty much everyone. They have only 2 nations with which they are doing well. One of those being Russia for some reason, and the other one being Japan. It's kind of interesting that. The best relations also that I can see in the game is Russia with France. They have 0 tensions. That is kind of interesting. And Italy with France have just 1. Other than that, you can see there's a lot of 3s, 2s, 4s. It's kind of okay. Nobody is really going after anyone else, and nor are we. On the contrary, I plan, if the game allows me to ally with Austria-Hungary, because they are our neighbor, and even for roleplay reasons, it's another German-speaking nation that we would do well to have as a friend. And I would like to achieve sort of a strong friendship or an alliance with either France, Italy, or England. Now, if we at any point manage to ally with both Austria-Hungary and Italy, it would bode very well for us, because we would pretty much control the entirety of the Mediterranean by using our friends. If there is one bad side to that, because they can jump at each other, which happens quite a lot, but I believe that if we ally both of them, we might even have a chance to lower their tensions via diplomatic efforts in case they go after each other. As far as the other nations like Japan, Spain, I'm thinking about anyone else that we would really not care about, but it's just Japan, Spain, France, England. I don't really want to say much here because we really don't know what's going to happen. So I don't want to prove myself wrong, in the very next video. So let's just leave it at that. The second part is going to deal with the economy and budget of our Navy. So we're starting in a very good situation, as you can see. Our yearly budget is 68,080 Reichsmark. Yes, I'm going to call it Reichsmark. It's better than money units. I know that it's not Reichsmark. It would be way closer to, I guess, thousands or even millions of Reichsmark, but I'm just going to call it Reichsmark to have some kind of denomination, so I hope that is acceptable to you. This means that our monthly budget is 5,673 Reichsmark, and apart from that, we have a liquid fund of 5,246 Reichsmark, which is pretty good. We're starting in a really good situation. Our total expenses are only 2,994 Reichsmark, which accounts to about 52.77% of our budget. It's going to change dramatically at the very first turn that we're going to play, but still, this is the situation we are starting with. Of those expenses, about half, or slightly less than half, goes to ship cost, meaning the maintenance of our ships, 12,036 Reichsmark, or 21.78% of our monthly budget. And we're paying slightly less than 1% in fortification cost, 48 Reichsmark. We're paying 454 for research, and we're paying 1,256 for construction because we have a heavy cruiser currently being constructed in our dockyard. So this gives us quite a huge amount of money every month to play with, and we even have a little bit of a money pillow under us that we can use in the upcoming months and years. I intend to spend most of my money, because as I mentioned in episode 0, if you hoard up too much money, the game is going to take it away from you. If you're not spending your monthly budget, the game cannot lower it because the government will think that you are, intentionally, or actually they will think that you don't need the money. That's basically it. So we need to invest it and we need to expand. It's going to be interesting to watch here how our yearly budget is going to increase. From what I remember, it should increase between 2, 3, maybe 4% every year, something like that. So we're going to see. Now to research. I'm going to skip through research pretty quickly. I just wanted to mention that this is going to be some place where we are going to spend a lot of time in the upcoming episodes, because it is kind of important. For us right now, we need to increase the research budget to maximum. We're currently investing 8% into our research, and we can invest all the way to 12%, so I'm going to increase it to that. And we need to set research priorities. The categories here that you see are the research areas that you can invest in, and they are as follows: machine development, armor development, hull construction, fire control, subdivisions and damage control, turrets and gun mountings, ship design, AP projectiles, light forces and torpedoes, explosive shells, and naval guns. We have 0 levels in each one of those, but don't worry, we're going to start raking them up pretty quickly. I'll speak about it a little bit more when we are in the game, but suffice to say, there are hundreds of levels that we can achieve in each one of these research fields. So don't you worry, we're going to get quite a lot of research done very soon. Now we're getting to the most fun part of the update, the fleet overview. Now, we are starting the game with the following amounts of ships. We have 3 battleships, we have 3 heavy cruisers, we have 7 light cruisers, and we have 7 corvettes. Now, we're gonna go through those in order, but I just want to say right now that our battleships are awful. Our battleships are absolutely awful. They're the worst type of battleship that I ever started with, and that says a lot. Contrary to that, though, we have fairly good heavy cruisers and we have excellent light cruisers, and even our corvettes are not bad. So the game gave us a little bit of a mixed bag, but the fact that the ships of the line, the battleships, the damage dealers are so bad is gonna haunt us in the first year, and it's gonna make it very hard for us to get into any type of conflict if we are forced. So getting new battleships is going to be a priority number one. We're going to start with that, and it has to be rectified because our battleships absolutely suck. There's a couple of other things that you can see on the fleet overview notes. As I mentioned, fleet has very decent cruisers but terrible battleships. That's point number one. But we have too many classes of heavy cruisers. Each one of those cruisers, each one of those three cruisers is a separate heavy cruiser. And so we have three classes of heavy cruisers, each one having its separate ship, complete a different ship, and we're building a fourth heavy cruiser, which is its own separate class. So we have four, like in a year, we'll have four cruisers of four classes, of four distinct classes, which is kind of insane. It's not much better with light cruisers or corvettes, but at least it's not so bad. Another major issue that there is no standardization in our navy. Ships have varying speeds, so it's going to be very hard for them to work together, though it is very much worse for the battleships. The heavy cruisers, light cruisers, they're sort of okayish at similar speeds. Not the same speeds, but very similar. But the guns are different and the purposes are different. So, yeah. And we also lack a clear purpose in some of those designs because our ships, believe it or not, with the exception of the battleships, are very good overall ships. But each one of them would be much better if they were designed with some kind of specialization in place, which is not the case. So we're gonna lean into them, hoping that they can carry us through the initial years, and then we are going to design new ships. Now, I've created a plan to build some of these ships, additional ships, until 1895, and some till 1900, but we'll see if the budget allows it. And last note that I have here, of course, is the insufficient amount of ships. This is not an amazing amount of ship. England has way more, and we want to get to a degree of independence that is guaranteed by our numerical superiority. Okay, with that said, let's jump to the battleships. So we have 3 ships as battleships, or classified as battleships, and all of them are of the same class, the Weissenburg class. The Weissenburg class is awful. All 3 of those battleships that we have, Weissenburg, Brandenburg, and Würth, are all awful. The reason for that is that the battleships that we have are merely 7,100 tons, which is less than some of our heavy cruisers. That alone should tell you that they are quite bad. Just for comparison, we can currently build 12,000 tons ships. So having a battleship that's slightly over half of that tonnage is just not going to cut it for us. They're also extremely slow. They're only capable of 40 knots, while most ships of this time should be capable of at least 20 knots, which you will see that most of our cruisers and heavy cruisers are capable of that. And they are, furthermore, only short-ranged. They have cramped accommodations, and they have a low freeboard, meaning that they are pretty much not ocean-worthy. So all of this is telling us that these ships are not going to be able to run away from anyone. And if they get into a conflict with pretty much any other type of enemy ships in an amount of more than 1, this ship is going to get overrun pretty quickly. And its armament is not going to help much with that, because this ship has only 1 main turret. It is a single twin 10-inch gun forward-facing turret. meaning that while this ship is super slow, it cannot even fire this gun while running, which is absolutely abysmal design. With a battleship that's getting overrun by enemies, the least you can do is actually shoot at them while they're catching up to you, and we can't. Now, there's a lot to be said for the fact that this ship has 4 single-turreted 9-inch secondaries, but again, there's just 4 of them, so, and the tertiary guns are 2-inch turret guns. There's 8 of them, but again, they're just 2-inch. So it's just not a good ship. It's just overall not a good ship. As far as the defense go, it has a decent belt. It has a 10-inch narrow belt, however, so the protection is slightly reduced. It has a 3-inch deck, which is kind of a lot for this time period, because there's no airplanes throwing bombs at us from the sky, so the deck is fairly heavily armored, and it has a 9-inch armor on its turrets and 6-inch on secondaries, though the turret tops are not protected, so still an unlucky hit to the top of the turret can take it out. And its conning tower has merely 3 inches. So what are we gonna do with this atrocity of a battleship? Well, as I said, the ship is extremely small. It has only forward-facing armament, which makes it incapable of desired defensive fire. I forgot to mention that it has also no torpedoes, so that is another great travesty. It has an inadequate size, and thus it is just worthless for us in its current state. However, we can refit it. I checked that we can refit it. We can add roughly 3 extra knots at it, putting it up to 17, which is still not great, but it is at least more than 14 knots, giving it a little bit of extra speed. We can add more shells on it, and we'll see if we can do something else while we're working on the ship. But the good part is that it has 330 tons remaining on it, which you can invest into various stuff. So we're going to stack it with more shells. We're going to see if we can make that speed upgrade, how much it would cost. And then we are just probably going to send it to our colonies to defend them. This ship is just to be replaced immediately. We're going to rebuild them or refit them, depending on your nomenclature, and we're going to relegate them to colonial patrol duty, because that's the only thing that it can do. If it's patrolling in our colonies, it might encounter light cruiser raiders, which will probably outrun it immediately once they face it, but in that case the battleship could at least be useful, because it's gonna try to hit something and not be running itself from numerical superiority. So yeah, we'll see. My plan is also to completely retard them by 1900 if possible. It will depend on how quickly we can get new battleships online. But we'll see. We'll see. Okay, now to a little bit more positive chapter. The heavy cruisers. So the first heavy cruiser that we have here is Hertha class. As I mentioned, we have only one ship of this class, which is called Hertha. It has the same tonnage as our battleships, 7,100 tons, but it has only 38 tons remaining, so any refit is impossible at this point. It wouldn't do us any good. But the good news is that this heavy cruiser is capable of 20 knots, which is a fairly good speed for a heavy cruiser. It is medium ranged, it has normal accommodation, meaning it can operate outside of our bases for a limited amount of time, which is pretty good. It is a normal freeboard, so it can traverse oceans fairly safely. And it's armored by a fairly good armament of 2 twin 7-inch gun turrets, one in the forward, one in the aft. Furthermore, it has 8 single-turreted 6-inch guns, which is again pretty decent secondaries, and it has 4 single torpedo tubes facing forward, aft, port, and starboard, so in a sort of a star shape at all angles. So this heavy cruiser is actually really, really good. Furthermore, it has a decent defense. It has a 4-inch belt, it has a 2-inch deck armor, and its turrets have a 4-inch protection with 1.5 inch on the top, and its secondaries have 2-inch plates on them. And its conning tower has 4 inches of steel, which is, if you remember, more than our goddamn battleships have. Yeah, so as an overall note, this is a very good cruiser with very good speed and firepower. On the downside, it has a lower amount of shells. It has only 130 for its primaries and 160 for each of its secondaries. But we could refit it with 160 shells for primary guns without an issue. So we'll see once we get a couple of upgrades to our engines, armor and stuff like that, we might save a little bit of extra tonnage on the ship and use it to store more shells. Now, as a side note, 130 shells for each of its guns might not seem like a low amount, but remember that the average chance to hit at this point in time will be happy if it's 2% for each shot fired. So you really need every single shell that you can stick on your ships, because it is a pling fest. We are going to be shooting at each other for hours at length, hoping that we are going to be the ones hitting our enemies. It's really not surprising when you think about how these battles went. You had no mechanical rangefinders, you had no mechanical assistance at all in the beginning. So all you had was basically a guy on a turret just giving its best shot, and considering that our enemies will be 4,000-5,000 yards away, moving at a varied angle towards us, away from us, it is quite amazing if you even score a hit when you think about it. It's quite an achievement. So furthermore, Hertha class could serve most roles in our fleet. It could even do trade protection, it could be a raider, it could serve as a fleet support. So I plan to build at least 3 more by 1895, rounding the numbers of Herthas to 4 in our fleet. Second class of heavy cruiser that we have here is Victoria Louise class. Again, the Victoria Louise is a pretty good ship. Interestingly, it is 300 tons smaller than Hertha, but it is, without any doubt, the best heavy cruiser that we have in our fleet at this point. It is capable of the same speed of 20 knots as Hertha is, but our only ship in the class, Victoria Louise, is so well built that it actually has 21 knots of speed. So it is faster than Hertha. Its armament is also better. It has 2 twin 8-inch gun turrets, so 1 inch more than the Hertha, 1 in forward and 1 in aft, so that's the same configuration. It has 8 single-turreted 6-inch guns, which is the same as Hertha has, and it also has 4 single torpedo tubes, 1 in forward, 1 in aft, 1 in port, and 1 on starboard. As far as defense goes, it's very similar to our previous cruiser. It has a 4-inch belt. It has slightly lowered deck armor. When you check, Hertha has 2-inch, and Victoria Louise has a 1.5-inch deck. It has the same turret defense. It has 4 inches on primaries with 1.5 inch on the turret top. It has 2-inch protection on its secondaries, and it has a 4.5 inch on its conning tower, which is more than Hertha had. This ship is 300 tons smaller, but it has bigger guns and better protection of its conning tower. So without any doubt, this is the best heavy cruiser that we have in the fleet. It has very good speed and firepower. Again, it has a lower amount of shells, but it could serve, as Hertha did, most roles we can envision for it. It could do pretty well in every single role. And it's slightly cheaper and smaller than the Hertha class, which is amazing. I plan to build 5 more of these by 1895, so we should have eventually, we should have 4 heavy cruisers of the Hertha class, and we should have 6 heavy cruisers of the Victoria Louise by 1895. We'll see if that's achievable. We have a big plan ahead of ourselves. It's possible that we'll have to wait till 1900 to achieve all of these goals, but still, I plan to capitalize on the designs that we have as much as possible before we actually turn in the research achievements that we're going to get and turn those into new design. So the third design that we have our fleet is Fürst Bismarck class. Let me take a sip of my coffee. The only ship in the class is called Fürst Bismarck as well. It is a very small heavy cruiser. It has only 4,600 tons. It's capable of 19 knots, so it's slightly slower than the other two heavy cruisers that we have. It is a medium range of normal accommodation, normal freeboard, so all of our ships are ocean-worthy and able to operate in quite a distance away from our naval bases. It has a decent armament for its size as well. It is weaker than the other ships, but it is still excellent for its size. It has a there's a mistake here, but it's a two twin 7-inch gun turret, one in the front and one in the aft. It has 6 single turret 5-inch guns on it, and it has 4 torpedo tubes, again, all around the ship. Its defense is also 4-inch belt, 2-inch deck. It has 4 inches on its primary turrets with a 2-inch top and 3-inch secondaries, and it has a 3.5 inch on its conning tower. Now, this ship, for its size, is absolutely amazing. It is quite small, but it is armed to the teeth. Now, I'm not saying that this ship is better than Victoria Louise, which is our best cruiser, only because while Victoria Louise is better armed, you have to look at it at the size ratio. So for its size, it is amazing, but it is still not as capable of Victoria Louise because it is a little bit less armored. Well, actually, it's better armored than Victoria Louise. That's interesting, or similarly armored. But its guns are much weaker. But it doesn't matter. For its size, it is an amazing ship. It is an amazing ship with good speed and good firepower. It is excellent armor for its size. Again, lower amount of shells, but this could serve as an excellent raider or a trade protection ship because it would sink any light cruiser that it would face without any doubt. And I plan to build 3 more by 1895. We might develop upgrades based on this design and turn them into sort of a sneak, cheap, heavy cruiser that would rain havoc on our enemies. So we're gonna see very specific design, small heavy cruiser, smaller than some of our light cruisers to be quite honest, but I really like it. Still, it is a little bit under powered compared to the other heavy cruisers, but I like it. And last but not least, the 4th class of heavy cruisers that we have is Prinz Heinrich. Prinz Heinrich will enter service in January 1891. We currently have no ships of the class, but we're building the first one, which is going to be ready in 12 months. It is the biggest ship in our fleet at this point. It will have 8,100 tons, with 3 tons remaining over. It is capable of 19 knots. It is medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard. But it is a significantly different design than the previous heavy cruisers because it doesn't have a forward-facing turret and aft-facing turret. It instead has 14 single 6-inch guns distributed all along its hull in a 30-60 degree angle. Now, this is a really interesting design which you can see in many other ships. I am kind of against this type of design because the logic here is as follows. This heavy cruiser cannot be jumped. So if it faces 2 or even 3 light cruisers coming at it from various sides, it can shoot at all of them at all the time because they will each come to a certain angle and be facing different guns. some will be facing at one ship, some will be facing at a different ship, some will be facing at the third ship. But if it meets a same-sized heavy cruiser with heavy turrets in front and back, it's going to lose, because no matter what you do with the ship, it cannot fire all of its guns at once to a certain angle. Well, you can definitely do that with the previous ships. You can just show your starboard or port, turn the guns, and shoot both of them at one ship. Here, that doesn't work. At the best, you can shoot about half of the guns at once. So again, it's a different type of design. I like it, but I think it's already outdated. So we're gonna build one more of this one, but that's about it. This design needs to be retired. But still, it would be great for trade protection, I think, to drive away enemy light cruisers that will prey on our ships. If the 6-inch guns won't do that work, when it gets closer, it has additional secondaries of it has 8 single turreted 3-inch guns on itself, and it has 2 torpedo tubes, one at port and one at starboard, meaning again this ship is hard to get a jump on. Its defense is also pretty decent. It has a 4.5-inch belt with 1.5-inch extended belt, meaning it is much better armored than any of our other cruisers. It has a 2-inch deck plating. It has 4 inches with 2 inches on the third top. It has no defense on its secondaries, though considering it's just 3-inch guns, I can understand that. And it has insane plating on its conning tower. It is 8 inches. Remember, our battleship has 3 inches, so this just puts our battleship to shame. So overall, this ship is decently armored. It could serve as an excellent trade protection ship. It has great, well, not great, but it has a good speed with heavy firepower, but complex fire arcs, which can lead to it getting overpowered if it meets a similar sized heavy cruiser with a different design. Okay, and now we are moving towards our light cruisers. So the first ship of the light cruiser type that we have here is the Gazelle class. And we have one ship of this type in our fleet. It is 4,700 tons, with 13 tons remaining. It is capable of 21 knots, which is very good speed. It has medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard. Its armament is 8 single-turreted 5-inch guns, similar design as we saw at the previous heavy cruiser Prince Heinrich. So these are distributed in a 360 degrees angle around the ship. It has 8 single-turreted 3-inch guns secondaries, and it has 4 single torpedo tubes on it, 1 port, 1 starboard, 1 forward, and 1 on aft. Its defense is much lighter than the heavy cruisers and has a 2.5-inch belt, 1.5-inch deck, and its primary turrets has 2 inches with 1.5-inch on top, no defense for its secondaries, and has a 4-inch plating on its conning tower. Now, as a whole, this ship has excellent speed. It has a very good firepower for a light cruiser, I'd say. It could serve as an excellent raider, though it would serve better if it had turret. It's a great ship for general fleet support as well. It could be, forward scouting and, chasing off destroyers later on when they come into the game. It would be very hard to get overpowered by small ships due to its armament. I plan to build 3 more by 1895 and total of 7 more by 1900. So we will hopefully have 8 Gazelle class ships in our fleet by 1900. The second type of ship that we have of the light cruiser type is Hela. Hela is slightly smaller than the Gazelle. It has only 3,300 tons with 85 remaining. It is slightly slower. It has only 20 knots of speed. And its armament, again, medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard, that's standard for every single ship except our battleship. Its armament is 4 single 5-inch guns, again distributed 360 degrees. It has 4 single turreted 4-inch guns secondaries, so it has 8 guns, 4 of 5 inches and 4 of 4 inches. Damn, it's hard to pronounce. And it has 4 torpedo tubes, port, starboard, forward, and aft. So pretty decent armament for this size of a ship. And its defense is comparable. Yeah, it's almost the same as Gazelle, with the exception that it has only 3-inch plating on its conning tower. So overall, very good speed of this ship. It has low firepower for a light cruiser, but for its size, it is excellent. It also has very low ammo. It has only 140 shells for its primaries and 180 shells for its secondaries. But it is a very decent armor for its size and could serve as a cheap fleet support or raider. I plan to build one more by 1895, and if we ever get into a conflict, these ships are going to be sent as raiders against enemies, especially because they will do quite a lot of damage to the enemy traders. They will also not be missed, or it's not going to be a big loss if they get sunk by the defending forces. So yeah, I like these, but we don't need a great number of those. 2 should be enough for us for now. And the last ship in the fleet of the light cruiser type is Gefion. We have 5 of these ships in our fleet. We have Gefion, Niobe, Ariadne, Amazon, and Medusa. It is the smallest of the light cruisers. It has only 3,100 tons. It's capable of 20 knots as well. Medium range, normal combination, normal freeboard. It has 6 single 4-inch guns on it. It has, again, in a 360 degrees arc, so not bad. It has 6 more guns, single turreted 2-inch guns around it as secondaries, so much weaker armament than the previous Hella class had. But it has still 3 single torpedo tubes, port, starboard, and forward. Its defense is fairly good. It has slightly less inches on its belt, 2 inches to be precise. It has 2-inch deck, which is kind of interesting. It's the only ship that has the same amount of deck and belt armor. Kind of an interesting design choice, I guess. And it has 2 inches on its turrets with 1.5 inch on the top. Nothing for its secondaries, and 3-inch conning tower. So this ship has a low firepower, let's be honest. But again, for 3,100 tons, it has a bite to it. It also has a very good, decent armor for its size, so I kind of like it. And it could also serve as an excellent raider or fleet support. I think this one will complement the previous classes if it's sent to raiding, because again, it is very small. It won't be missed if it's sunk, but it has a decent amount of guns to deal damage to its enemies if it comes down to it. So, and we have to keep in mind that the enemy light cruisers might be twice of this size at this point. So we just have to see what these ships could do. Its biggest advantage, though, is that it's really fairly cheap. Even compared to the Hella class, it's super cheap. So I plan to build one more by 1895 and have 6 of these in the fleet. We're gonna see what we're gonna do with them in case of a conflict. Okay, and the last light cruiser in our fleet is actually a ship that has been designed, but we are not building, or we don't own any of these light cruisers. Still, I don't plan to build any, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But I want to point out that this is a really, really interesting design. Something that I haven't seen a lot in the game, considering the way the AI designed it. I'm even tempted to not call it a light cruiser. It should probably be classified as a heavy cruiser. It has 20 knots, 5,400 tons. It's medium range, normal combination, normal freeboard. It has 2 single 8-inch gun turrets, one forward and one aft. Imagine an 8-inch gun on its front and back on a light cruiser. when you look at it, I don't think we have a single... No, okay. Victoria Louis as a heavy cruiser class has similar ship equipment or armament, but Thetis has two of these turrets, one in forward, one in aft, and it has 8 single turreted 6-inch guns on it as well as secondaries, and it even has tertiary guns, 10 single turreted 3-inch guns. So it's crazy. For a light cruiser, this is insane amount of firepower. And it also has 3 single torpedo tubes, 1 port, 1 starboard, and 1 forward. Now, I don't know what else to say. In my mind, this is an experimental heavy cruiser, honestly. Or at least it's a crossover between light cruiser and heavy cruiser. Its defense is a 2-inch belt, 2-inch deck. It has 4 inches, so twice the belt armor is on its turrets, with 1.5-inch turret top and 4-inch conning tower. I'm tempted to make a joke. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. This ship is gonna be shooting its turrets while it's sinking. Because they will be okay. The ship will be, it will have more holes in it than Emondauchi's, but it's still gonna be shooting. Yeah. Okay, overall, very good speed, heavy firepower, low ammo, but that's a problem for all of our ships. It has a weak armor for its size. I'm wondering if there should be more said about it, but no, it has weak armor. Basically, that's it. It would be a fairly good trade protection or fleet support because of its guns. It could take down maybe even much bigger ships if we maneuver it well. But it's expensive. For a light cruiser, it's very expensive. So overall, I don't like this design. I just find it very interesting. But I don't plan to build any for the Kaiserliche Marine. But I'm happy that we have such a ship, design, because it's an interesting thing to look at and compare our ships to. Anyway, now we're getting to the corvettes. The first type of a corvette that we have is the Columbia class. We have one ship of that class, Columbia. It's only 600 tons, capable of 19 knots. And even this ship has medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard, while our battleships don't. It drives me insane. It has 2 single turreted 4-inch guns, one on forward, one on aft, so regular turrets, and it has secondaries, which kind of made me laugh. 4 single 2-inch guns around its body or hull. It even has some kind of defense, an 1-inch bend and 1-inch deck. Now, you will normally not see corvettes in a fleet action. They can accidentally get involved in it as coastal patrol during some kind of missions, but Columbia would get a single hit and it would just sink. So yeah, it's just too small, honestly. It's very small. It has average speed for corvette. 19 knots is nothing spectacular. It has decent firepower, though that's, without a question. It's adequate for trade protection if we wanted to send it out there. It is super cheap, but I still plan to retire it by 1895. And why I plan to retire is easily said here when you notice the second type of ship that we have as a corvette. August Pieper, or Piper, depending on how you want to pronounce it. We have 3 of these in our fleet: August Pieper, Karsten, and Brockeswalde. They're 900-ton corvettes, so about half bigger than the previous type. They're also capable of 19 knots, medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard, but they have way bigger armament. They have the same primary turrets, 4-inch guns, 1 aft, 1 forward, but it has 4 3-inch secondaries compared to the 4 2-inch secondaries. It has a 2-inch belt, 1-inch deck. For a corvette, it has very good firepower. It would be good for trade protection. Its speed, is not great, but it is very cheap. And while I plan to retire the Columbia, which is a 600-ton corvette, I plan to build 5 more of this ship class by 1895 to get it to 8. Because I really like this one. It's a really good design, but compared to Columbia, it has stronger guns and a better armor. Those 300 tons go a long way for us, so, still cheap, still dirt cheap, and it will, whatever role we decide for it, it will fix, or it will fill it better, not fix it. Okay, and the last corvette that we have here is the Delphine. Delphine, we have 3 of those, Delphine, the Nebula, and the Zeeps. It is a 2,400 ton corvette, which is all very big, in my opinion, especially compared to the previous ones. It is slightly overweight. It's the only ship in our class that's in our navy that's actually overweight by 2 tons. It is capable of only 70 knots, which is terrible speed for a corvette. But it has a medium range, normal accommodation, normal freeboard, and it is designed as a colonial service ship. So it is very useful for us because we can station these in our colonies and they will make sure that our colonial demands are met. It has 2 single 6-inch guns, 1 forward, 1 aft, and it has 6 single-turreted 4-inch guns as secondaries. So it is very well armored for its size. Very well armed for its size. Armored as well, it is 2-inch bow, 2-inch deck, and it even has a protection on its turrets of 1.5 inches. So a pretty good ship, which is great for colonial service. It's very expensive for its size, but I still plan to build 1 more by 1895 so we can actually have 4 of these and we can distribute them along our colonies on protection or colonial service. Okay, and that's all for the Navy, and we can move to the bases and land fortifications. So, first things first, we have a dockyard capacity, as I mentioned, of 12,000 tons. Now, I plan to do one thing, which is I plan to match the biggest dockyard in the world, 1-on-1. So right now, England has, if I'm not mistaken, the biggest dockyard of 15,000 tons. So we're going to have to expand our dockyard capacity to that size early on. We also have a list of naval bases here. We have a huge amount of capacity in Northern Europe and the Baltic. We have some capacity in South Pacific, 20, and we have a base capacity, base capacity, that's it. In Southern Africa, West Africa, Indian Ocean, Central Pacific of 5, which is not great, but it can accommodate a couple of ships nonetheless. And regarding the size of the bases, we are going to expand them eventually, but we first need to create an Asian and African fleets, and we first need to increase the dockyard capacity. Once that is done, we can focus on expanding the bases, but not before. And here we have the coastal fortifications of the German Empire. You will notice that we have we have a sort of a defense in Germany and Eastern Germany. Both of these have a single 4-inch coastal battery, and we have a couple of 6-inch coastal batteries. We have 3 of those in Germany and 1 in Eastern Germany. Undefended territories, though, we have no defenses in East Prussia, Cameroon, Tanganyika, Bismarck Archipelago, Southwest Africa, or the Marshall Islands, and we need to fix that. By 1895, all of our colonial positions must have at least 2 6-inch batteries, and our core territories must have at least 3 6-inch coastal batteries and 3 4-inch coastal batteries. So we'll have to build those pretty quickly to make sure that our territories are well defended. Now, coastal batteries, unfortunately, do not come into play much, but where they do, they are amazing. First, they repel enemy invasions into your territory, and they can be also used in defensive purposes if your ships are overgunned. So you can retreat to the safety of your port or close to the coastal batteries, and they can provide covering fire. I also plan by 1900 that all of our colonial positions must have at least 1 8-inch battery. So that's going to be a little bit of an expensive investment, but I believe it's going to be worth it because it means that we will defend our territories against any kind of enemy incursion. And the officer corps. Well, there's not much to say to the German officer corps because we just started, but I wanted to mention that we have 5 admirals, 5 Konteradmirals, we have 10 Kapitän zur See, and we have 10 Fregattenkapitäns. The only thing that is quite noticeable here is that we have very bad pool of Konteradmirals. We have 5 of them, and 3 of those are below average, while 2 are unknown. We also have quite a lot of incapable admirals. We have 5, 2 unknown, 2 below average, and 1 above average. So that is just not giving me hope. The good part though is the Kapitän zur See. We have 1 above average and 2 average, none below, and 7 unknown. And in the department of Fregattenkapitäns, we have 10 captains, 8 unknown, 1 above average, and 1 below average. We're gonna try to get rid of the below average officers, but I'll have to see if it's even possible, honestly, because it gives you a prestige hit, and in most cases it is not advisable, to be quite honest, because it just costs you a lot. Instead, we should be getting an ever-increasing pool of officers from which we can choose new commanders manually for our ships and the squadrons. And that's it. That's the end of report for January 1890. It took only slightly over 15 minutes. So in the next part, we're going to jump into the game and put everything that we talked about here in practice. Now that we have managed to get through the update, the first very long update, it is time to finally start playing the game. I'm excited, even though that we have more than one challenge ahead of ourselves. First things first, what do we need to do here? Before we start advancing the time from January 1890, we need to address a couple of things. First, we need to set the research. We need to look into the rebuild of the Weissenburg class battleships because they are really bad as a sort of a temporary solution to our problem of battleships. And then we are going to design an even better battleship that's going to take some time to finish, but it's going to be a worthy replacement for the unworthy Weissenburgs. We also need to look a bit at the fortifications and bases, because I would like to start fortifying our colonies and core holdings. And I would also like to look a little bit on the possibilities to build some cruisers. But we'll need to run some calculations for that to happen, because it might be a little bit more complicated and I don't want to overstretch our budget. So let's start with the research. I mentioned that there is a lot of categories here. We're going to put them all to low, as I mentioned before. That just means that nothing changed. If everything is low, everything is medium, everything is high, it means they all get the same priority. But this way we can differentiate more between the things that we desire and things that we do not. I'm going to put fire control on high, because that is something that will give us an immediate edge over our enemies, because if you can hit them and they can't hit you, you are immediately in control of the situation. I would also like to put a medium on the subdivisions and damage control, because making your ships not sink after they're hit is considered very important in the naval circles. And I would also like to put the naval guns on a medium, because those things are also kind of important for the naval combat. The rest can remain on a low. It doesn't mean that we're not going to get any research in those areas done. It just means that we are more likely to focus on fire control, subdivisions, and naval guns. Second, we are going to look at our ships and design a rebuild for the Weissenburgs, because we want to make something of them, at least temporarily, before we relegate them to colonial duty and then to the scrapyard. Now, before I do that though, I wanted to show you something. As I mentioned in the update, we have Prince Heinrich here, which is a heavy cruiser which is going to be finished in January 1891 as the first ship of its class. However, there is a weird thing here where we have the design study running for Weissenberg refit and a Kaiser class battleship. Now, these are legitimate. I've done them, but it was a test of some functionalities of the game, and I didn't save the game after. They shouldn't be here, and we are going to ignore them because they are not taking away any funds from us. I tested that by reloading the game, but also we cannot get rid of them. So I don't know. It seems like an error in the game's code. So please ignore it. It was just a test and I did not intend for them to be here. And again, I'm going to ignore them just so that you know. I'm not going to even put them in the update. They're non-existent as far as I'm concerned. I just don't want to confuse you if you see them accidentally somewhere else. So anyway, Weissenberg. So Weissenberg, as we have said, is a fairly bad ship. It has only a front-facing front-facing 10-inch twin turret, which is a decent weapon. However, a smaller weapon would serve us better, especially if there was another turret in the back. It is also extremely slow, and its armor is also not exactly intelligently placed. So we're going to deal with that. We're also going to deal with the fact that there's only 100 rounds for its primary gun. But I wanted to check one thing before we start playing with it, and that is how much a new Weissenberg would cost. How much would a new Weissenberg class cost? So we can see here that it was 23,107 Reichsmark to build a new one, which is an important information because we're not going to sink, 60-70% of our new ship cost into this one. So let's open it for rebuild and see what we can do. So first of all, we're going to replace the machinery in the ship, which immediately bumped our rebuild cost to 2,645 Reichsmark. But it now allows us to increase the speed of the vessel actually quite significantly. As I said, we can add 3 knots to it. I think I mentioned that in the update because that's what I was testing here before. And the first 2 knots are almost free. When you look at it, they cost very little. It's the third increase that actually takes away 200 tons and adds a lot of machinery. Also a lot of cost, but I believe it is worthy because having a ship run at 70 knots is way better than having it run at 60 knots. Trust me at that. Though we are already paying 5,964 Reichsmark for this rebuild alone. But I think that is possible. I think that would be possible. I'm not sure if we could change the accommodations, but we cannot assign it to colonial service, so there really isn't any point. I just want to split them among our colonies, and they will do a trade protection there. For that, we don't really need them to be of colonial service. So if we bump them up to 17 knots of speed, I can then start adding more shells here, and we've got to about 135 rounds per gun. I cannot really change the tonnage here, unfortunately. If I tried to remove some of this ammo, could we remove maybe some of these tertiary guns? We could, but it would literally give us nothing. I mean, it's a 2-inch gun, so it's not a major thing, but really the 9-inch secondaries and 10-inch primaries, and all of these have 100 rounds per gun, which is just sad. That is just sad. Okay, so hold on. If we remove them completely, because I don't really think they're worth anything. Okay, then the ammo doesn't give us any benefit, understandably. So how much shells could we add to the primaries and secondaries if we did that? Not many. Could get both to 120, which really isn't a ton. Okay, let me try it again. I have an idea here that could work. Wait, so we need to do a rebuild, and let's say we increase the speed to 17 knots. We keep the secondaries, the primaries, and the tertiary guns, but we look a little bit at the armor plating. So could I remove some of the plating if we, for example, gave the turrets 2 less? Oh god, that bumps the cost insanely. Yeah, that's not the way to go. If we went with the priority for speed, it would give us quite a lot of extra knots here, but damn, that's still very poor. The game is forcing me to consider going just with 16 inches, 16 knots of speed if we want to keep the ship guns as they are. But it really makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if we would do this and go with replacing machinery, putting them to just 16 knots, and then what we could do, could we get 150 shots? We could very easily. Could even put 160. Having faster ship would be much better. But having a ship that can actually shoot is even better. Okay, so I guess, I mean, we could do additional deck armor, bulged. Yeah, I think we might have to go this way. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. But it's just, what if we wanted, okay, that's another thing that we might want to consider. If we put an aft submerged torpedo tube, what would that do? The cost. Rebuild cost 4,080, and if we add the submerged, it's 4,190. It's also so much cheaper if we go just to 16 knots compared to 17. So I like that more for that very reason. So 155 for the secondaries and 160 for the primaries, and we can add an aft torpedo tube. I mean, we are unlikely to use that one, so let's just not complicate it and use the shells. Okay, let's do it this way. That will use all of its remaining weight, and we can keep it as it is. Okay, so it's gonna be 60 knots. It's gonna get 60 more shells for its secondaries and 70 for its primary gun. And it costs 4,080. That is actually pretty darn decent. Okay, so the ship has a narrow belt. Yes, we know the ship has a cramped accommodation. We know the ship has a short range, and the ship has a low freeboard. Yes, I know all of that. Yes. Okay, so now we can rebuild our ships. It's gonna take 12 months, but monthly build cost is gonna be only 340. Well, we are very unlikely to get into a war in the very beginning of the game, so sending them all to the rebuild, that's gonna cost us roughly 1,020, and not roughly, but it will cost us 1,020 per month, and they are going to all be much more useful when they are done. Okay, so that is one thing which will improve our capabilities. And now we need to design a completely new ship, which is going to be a replacement for these poor Weissenburg mishaps. We're gonna go for a 12,000 ton battleship, and we're gonna hope that we're gonna make it good. So let's have the game auto-design something for us. It auto-designed a 7,000 ton battleship, which is not what I want. Okay, you're looking much better. 11,500 tons, 18 knots of speed. That is pretty good. I think we're gonna use this as a basis. It has torpedoes as well. Okay, so let me see. If we wanted to go with 19 knots, that would be fairly a lot of extra overweight tonnage. So if we bumped you up to 12,000 tons, we could do it. We could do it without any problems. I am shocked. So okay, the new design will be 12,000 tons. It's gonna have a normal freeboard, thank God. It's gonna have normal accommodation. It has a short range though. If we put medium, it bumps to 500 tons of weight. This is where the issue comes from. What if we want speed? Yeah, that better, but doesn't have it. Okay, we'll have to skimp on the armor because we don't have enough guns here. And the tertiary guns are of 3 inches caliber. Okay, 14 6 inches secondaries and 2. I like this design. I actually wanted to show you something when it comes to the guns. The 8-inch gun is the last one that we have at quality -1. You will notice that the maximum range of this gun is 9,348 yards, which might not seem, that bad. It actually isn't. It's a pretty decent amount of range. And when you look, it does about 5,264 points of damage at 1,000 yards, with about 2,800 at 9,000. When we go to 9 inches, which is a quality -2, the actual range drops by almost 1,000 yards, and we suddenly do much less damage at short range. It is fairly comparable at 8,000, but it is nowhere near the damage. Even if we went to 11 inches, we would still have... 11 inches would be comparable to 8 inches of quality -1. But you will see that the tonnage here increased by an insane amount. So the 8-inch guns are actually fairly good for our battleships. They're not great. They are so small compared to things that we are going to see heading against us. But you can see the logic behind it. While the gun is much smaller, it actually, in some cases, even outperforms the much heavier calibers. So we're going to keep it at 8 inches. I have already checked that before. We just need to figure out what we're going to do with the weight remaining. So I want to remove these mounts. Okay, that's going to save us a little bit of weight. We have 7 inches on the conning tower, which is not bad. We have 8.5 inches on the turrets. So if we went ahead and lowered it to 7 inches, okay, that gives us another 100 tons. The upper belt is 5.5 inches. Okay, that is crazy. Yeah, okay, we can go with 3. And the extended belt can also go to 3. And that means we can increase the armor of the turrets back to 8 inches. And the belt is 8.5. I would like to have it at 9. And I think that we can take down, what about the secondaries? If we put them just half an inch less. Okay, let's put them at 4 inches because we still need a ton of weight for the ammo. So if we went 160 primaries, and we have 160 on secondaries already and 200 on the third type of guns. So if we went to 170 on both. Okay, we can go 170 primaries, 170 secondaries, and 200 at the tertiary guns. We will have a ship of 12,000 tons displacement. Speed is 19 knots, which is great. We have a belt of 9 inches, which, 10 inches would be better, but I guess that would become, we would just need so much more. So let's just hope that the 9 inches are gonna be okay. It's a little bit less than I would like, but on the other hand, the ship is very maneuverable. So that itself is going to be a big boon for us. We also have a pretty decent range on our main gun, so I like that. And we are going to call this one. It was supposed to be the Kaiser class, so instead we are going to call it Deutsche Kaiser, the German Kaiser. Let's check if everything is okay. The ship. Oh, you have a narrow belt as well. Damn it, I missed that. And reducing the rate of fire a little bit. Yeah, there's no way we can go with normal belt. We'll have to go narrow, but you are... Freeboard is normal, range is medium, accommodation is medium, so this ship can actually operate fairly well everywhere. Okay, monthly cost. Okay, total cost of this ship is nearly 40,000 Reichsmark. So building these is gonna be one hell of a job, but we'll take it. Okay, so we have designed a ship that's gonna be a replacement for the Weissenburgs. It is going to happen in 3 months? Yeah, and it's actually even better than the original Kaiser. I think we designed it well. Now we have set the research, and we are done with pretty much everything else except for the bases. So let us now go to the base overview. We actually know where our fleets are. They're mostly located in Northern Europe, and they are located in the Baltic and Eastern Germany, where we have enough dockyards. But as we're gonna move our ships around, we might need to actually put a little bit more basing capacity on these areas. Though when you look at the current setup, this is the value being used, right? Yep. So in the Baltic, we have almost all of our fleet, and they're only using 12 points of it. So I think that even these small ports can actually handle a smallish navy if we want to. Okay, so let's instead look at the coastal fortifications. That is something that we have spoken about in the update. We want to build more of these. We have 2 4-inch coastal batteries, one in Germany and one in Eastern Germany, and we have 6-inch coastal batteries, 2 of them in Germany, 3 of them actually in Germany, and 1 in Eastern Germany. So I'm gonna start by building some of these fortifications in, what is it, East Prussia. And let us build 2 6-inch guns there. Monthly build cost is going to be 640. It's going to take 6 months, which I believe is still okay because monthly balance is 1971. Okay, I'll take that. Or should we start with you? No, let's build... Actually, if we build 3, that would be 960, but... Actually, no, let's start lower. Let's start with 1. It's gonna take 6 months, but only 320. We're gonna build them gradually, so that it keeps happening all of the time. We're gonna be building some coastal fortifications, so there's no hurry. Maintenance cost is gonna be 16. That is absolutely fine. Cool. And I guess we have everything set. We need to increase our liquid funds a little bit while these things are running, because in 3 months we're going to be able to get the Deutsche Kaiser class into construction, and that's going to start consuming a lot of our money. So let us at this point end the turn and move into February. So our latest design, Battleship Kaiser, is ready for construction. Yes, that never happened. And same with the Weissenburg refit. And that's all. Nothing else has happened. So we have gained a little bit of funds. The Deutsche Kaiser is going to take 2 more months. You guys are rebuilding, and Prince Heinrich is being constructed. So there really isn't much else to do at this point. Just end the turn. An eccentric scientist of doubtful repute offers to sell us his latest invention in turrets and gun mountings for 800. Well, it's a question. You never know. These could go either way. And 800 is fairly low. So let's risk it. One never knows. It might revolutionize naval warfare. Buy it and evaluate it. A spy from Russia has been discovered. What do we do? Well, we can give it maximum publicity and denounce the aggressive policies of Russia, which is going to increase tensions, or we can handle it quietly and discreetly. I'm going to go with the second option. I'm not interested in stirring too much trouble. Research team reports they have trouble grasping the principles of destroyers. Well, doesn't mean much for us at this point. Intelligence report for Great Britain. The government of Great Britain has increased naval spending to keep its navy preeminent. And our research team report that they have some trouble grasping the principles of destroyers. And intelligence report on Japan. There are rumors that Japanese scientists have trouble mastering the principles of loading mechanization. Okay, that's fine. So we paid for whatever it was that we paid for, and nothing happened, so I have a feeling that might have been a waste. But we'll see. Before we do that, though, I'm going to start increasing our dock size to 12,500 tons. And we're going to spend 675 per month for the next 12 months to build a larger dock. It is a little bit expensive, but it is going to be worth our while. We should get a dockyard to at least 15,000 tons, because I think that's the size of the British dock, and we want to have parity with them. So March 1890 is behind us, so let's end the turn. With tensions low, the Reichstag votes to reduce naval spending. Okay, great, thank you guys. That is exactly what I wanted to see. And the invention of the eccentric scientist has proven to be of considerable value to our research in turrets and gun mountings. Okay, good. So we lost a little bit of a budget. I don't know how much. We're going to have to see. The invention was a success. It's great that we bought it then. And Fregattenkapitän Kern is promoted to Kapitän zur See. And Fregattenkapitän Karp, above average, is placed in command of CL Amazon. Okay, so Fregattenkapitans can also command light cruisers. That's interesting. And the Deutsche Kaiser is ready for construction. So let's go to the build screen, and we're going to start constructing our first one. It's going to cost us 1,405 Reichsmark per turn, meaning per month. And it's going to take 28 months to build it. Jesus Christ. But I guess we really don't have much of a choice, do we? Either way, this ship is going to be called Wilhelm I. And we're going to start building it then. Not much else that we can do here. Okay. So, wow, we lost actually about 5,000 Reichsmarks per year. And the monthly balance dropped to minus 784. But we should be fine. We can pause the rebuilds or the constructions, and I think that the coastal fortification is also going to be... No, that's the dock size. Okay, this one is going to be done in 3 months, so I think we might actually scrape by. We're going to see. And the tensions of Japan has lowered to 2. That's interesting. Okay, well, not bad. So let's end the turn again. Private shipbuilding is expanding. Max dock size increased by 1,000 tons. Nice. And our scientists report that they are working on the problem of improved and armor-piercing shot design, but success has so far eluded them. And they're studying the fascinating challenges of destroyers, but there has been little progress. Okay, so our dockyard is now probably 13,000 tons, and we're building 500 more. That's great. USA is building an 8-inch coastal battery in the eastern United States. Tensions between the United States and France decrease considerably because they share common values. Okay. And our scientists report that they are working. Oh, we know about that. Okay, tensions with Spain moved up to 4. But other than that, everything is fine. So let's end the turn again. A colonial crisis with Great Britain has arisen. You are asked for recommendations. What is your advice to the government? Well, we must safeguard our interests, and if it leads to war, we are prepared to fight it. That would increase our budget and prestige, but it would dramatically increase tensions. It would be best to avoid a war right now, but prepare for future conflicts by strengthening the navy, which gives us budget and tensions. And we are not ready for war and should make concessions to avoid escalating the tensions. I'm tempted to go with the third one. We would lose prestige and we will lose a little bit of tensions, but let's go with the middle option. We're going to increase our budget and increase the tensions. Hopefully it's not going to be a big hit, but we need to increase the tensions slightly to get a little bit more. The double increase in tensions can sometimes throw a wrench in even friendly relationships, so I'm not going to go that way right now. Our scientists report that they are working on the problem of melinite, but success has so far eluded them. Okay, so the tensions with United Kingdom or Great Britain has increased by, actually not much, by just 1 to 6. That's fine. And you can see that the monthly balance is now positive. I don't think we have finished anything. It's just that the budget has been increased as reaction to the tensions. So we are back to positive numbers. Great. So when is the coastal fortification going to be done? In 1 month. Okay, and yes, we have a 3,000-ton dockyard now. With the extra 500, we are going to be at 13,500 very soon, which is going to be good. So let's end the turn again. We finished the construction of a 6-inch coastal battery in East Prussia, and our relations with Great Britain have taken a sudden turn for the worse. No! Oh my god, no! No, not 11! Oh, please don't make me do this. We are so not ready to go into war against United Kingdom or Great Britain. Jesus Christ, why? I haven't done anything. My god. We have barely done anything. Okay, well, that means we can build another coastal battery in East Prussia. We might have to use it very soon. Okay, well, cool. That's great. That started well. The game is gonna force us into a war in the first couple of months of the game with these kind of battleships. Actually, with our battleships being rebuilt for the next 6 months and the first good ship coming in 25. So great. Thank you, game. That is amazing. Great Britain appears to be considering a naval rearmament program. The government asks you for your advice on how to react. Wherever those tensions, we're going with it. We should condemn the adventurous policies of Great Britain and strengthen our own navy. Tensions +2. Nope. Their ships are no threat to our better equipped and trained navy. We should always complain at the next. We could always complain at the next disarmament conference. So we're going to take that. It's a hit to the prestige, but lowers tensions. That's what we absolutely have to do. Okay, so the tensions are now at 10, which is risky, but still not entirely terrible. It's August 1890. Well, our ships are being constructed. The Weissenburgs are going to be done in 5 months, and so will Prince Heinrich. Wilhelm I is going to take 24 more months. We're going to put another ship into construction in October, because we do have some funds, and once these guys are done, we are going to be okay. So let's end the turn again. Battleship scare. The rising threat from Great Britain persuades the Reichstag to authorize additional funding for the Navy. Okay, how much is that? Our scientists report that they are working on the problem of telescopic sights, but progress has so far eluded them. Fregattenkaptein Wolf has shown himself to be below average. Okay, and our scientists report... Okay, we know about that. Okay, tensions with Spain have dropped, but we are starting to have a significant boost in budget. We were at what, 68,000 in the beginning? I think so. Our monthly budget has increased by, I guess, around 1,000 Reichsmark. That's actually pretty good. We might consider putting another battleship into construction immediately. No, we wouldn't be able to fund it, would we? The Deutsche Kaiser would cost, monthly would cost 1,405, so that would be 1,000. Yeah, next month. Next month we're gonna put the second battleship into construction. So let's end the turn again and see what we can do. The Kaiser has made an ill-considered statement about France. What is your response when asked by a foreign journalist? Try to explain that the quote was taken out of context. It's gonna lower our prestige but increase our budget. We will not comment on policy issues. Agree wholeheartedly with the Kaiser. Let's try to explain it was taken out of context. I'm gonna take the budget bonus and hit to prestige. Grand Admiral Wächter has shown himself to be of average ability. Okay, it's not bad. And tensions between Austria-Hungary and Italy increased because of hereditary enmity. Okay. Well, we're now at 890 monthly, which is more than enough for us to start building a second ship of the Deutsche Kaiser class. It's going to take another 28 months, and this one is going to be called, not surprisingly, Friedrich III. So this one is going to take 28 months, which is fine. Monthly balance is minus 515. That is actually pretty decent. Considering our first year, our budget has increased dramatically, but we still need to find ways how to lower tensions with Great Britain, because this is really not good. Okay, so October, now November. The ship's band of C.L. Geffion plays popular opera overtures to general delight, though other areas of crew training have suffered. So that lowers the unrest, I guess? And our scientists report that they have suffered a temporary setback in figuring out the concept of Melanite again. Okay. Well, unrest is now 1. Prestige is 18. We can't take any more hits to prestige, because a failed naval battle would take us out quickly. Though, yep, in 2 months we're gonna get Prince Heinrich, our new ship, and we're gonna finish the rebuilds of the Weissenburg. I'm gonna be at least a little bit confident that we have some ships that can fight. I mean, it's not spectacular, but considering the tensions, this dramatically changed our upcoming strategy. I was really hoping that we could keep them all low and slowly build, but this is just bad. December. Some enterprising young officer in naval intelligence have hatched a plan to blow up one of the capital ships of Great Britain at anchor. You are asked to give a plan the go-ahead. Such underhanded tactics are not in the tradition of our navy. I don't want to hear any more about such tricks. An excellent idea. These chaps are showing the right way. Nope, we're not gonna do that. A, that's gonna increase tensions. B, it is going to blow in our face, and they're gonna immediately declare war if it doesn't increase the tension. So I don't want to hear anything about that. Great Britain has increased their budget for the navy. Okay, that is their prerogative. They can do whatever they want. And we are going to do one more turn here, which means that the Weissenburgs are going to come back out of dockyard. Prince Heinrich is going to come out of dockyard, and we're going to set the third ship of the Deutsche Kaiser class to be constructed. So let's end the turn and hope it's not going to end in a war. And we finished our second 6-inch coastal battery in East Prussia. Nice. Our ship, battleship Wurf, has finished her reconstruction. Our ship Brandenburg has finished her reconstruction. And our ship Weisenburg has finished her reconstruction. And our scientists report that they are working on the problem of improved watertight integrity, but no success so far. And haven't we finished? That's interesting. We still haven't finished Prince Heinrich? No, we didn't. Okay. It says 0 turns left, but nothing. Okay, well, anyway, this is January 1891. It is where I'm going to end the episode. The battleship build-up is continuing. We're going to put the third one into construction very soon. Actually, probably right on the first turn of the next episode. But we're also going to start looking at the cruisers. Now, rebuilding the battleships is an absolute priority for us. Our current cruisers are actually pretty okay. We need more of them, and once the battleships are going to start coming out of the dockyard, we are definitely going to focus on that. But until then, the battleships are of utmost priority because the ones that we have are just not going to cut it at all. So thank you very much for joining me for this first episode of Rule the Waves, and I'll see you in the next one.